Hello, here we are. It's the HDG news, and today I would like to talk about a general topic of body shaming, a particular category of body shaming, which means making people feel ashamed of their bodies, specifically related to you would say, flagrant public display of one's sexuality. I'm going to make an argument here that eroticism or public eroticism, or a culture which, as ours is obsessed with public displays of sexuality. And one famous actress said, if you don't like, she used a word for mammary glands, don't go to see my movie because I'm going to display it all in my movie. And if you say to someone, well, maybe you should dress more, what we would call decently based on the standards of our culture, you're body shaming that person because that person is displaying their sexuality and you're making them feel bad about it. So the argument I'm going to make here is that a society like ours, which is obsessed with sexuality, that obsession actually destroys the possibility of democracy and destroys the possibility of a virtuous society. That's the task I'm taking on myself today, to argue that logically. And of course, I'm sure this is politically very incorrect, which means there's a good chance it may be right. So here's my basic argument. Let's start with the DOI, Declaration of Independence, not the DUI, which means drunk driving, but the DOI, the Declaration of Independence, which begins with a metaphysical claim. Metaphysical claim means it's not a claim about the natural world, the physical world. It's a claim about something which stands beyond the mere physical world. And that metaphysical statement, or that statement beyond the physical, is that we are created equal. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that we are created equal. Self-evident means it's obvious. You don't have to prove it, because any sane person whose senses are working normally can see it. And if you don't see it, you're hopeless. For example, if someone says there's a real world outside my senses and someone says prove it, you can't prove it empirically, because that would be circular, because you're trying to prove the validity of empirical experience, namely through our senses. And so ultimately, a scientist, or just anyone that claims that there's a real world out there, would have to say it's just obvious. We're having experiences all the time, and those experiences prove themselves. It's self-evident. You can't hold a candle to the sun, and they would say there's nothing you can do to prove that we are having real experiences, because the experience we have of a real world outside our own minds is so real that it's so basic that there's nothing else you can do to prove it. It proves itself. It's self-evident. That's the argument that Thomas Jefferson and his friends used in arguing for some type of equality. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that he said all men, but we now understand that to mean all people, all human beings, are created equal. So it's very significant that he said it's self-evident, because that's a philosophical claim, that it proves itself by the very nature of the experience. That if you're just a sane, reasonable human being, you'll experience it so powerfully that no other evidence is needed to prove it, and no evidence can disprove it. It's so basic and it's so powerfully real. So that's what Jefferson said, that there's a truth which is self-evident and that we're created equal. We're not just equal. You see, in secular democracy, one does not claim that we are created equal, because that's not secular. Created means a creator. In fact, Jefferson said that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that we are created equal, endowed by the creator. So if you bring in a creator, which is kind of like a soft mention of God, you don't want to use the G word, but you mean something like God, and so you say creator. So that's the word he used, that we are created equal. That means we are not just equal. We actually aren't just equal. We're created equal, and we're endowed by the creator with inalienable rights that nobody can take away from us. I don't know why my computer's beeping right now. I have no idea what that's supposed to be telling me. Some kind of alert I wish I could turn off. Anyway, these are very important points, because this was the argument in favor of democracy. This was actually the argument in favor of democracy, that it's a self-evident divine truth that someone has created us and made us equal, so that even if materially, as is the case, we are not equal materially. We can't all run as fast. We're not all equally beautiful. We don't all get the same scores on our intelligence tests, and we don't all have the same musical ability or athletic ability. So we're all unequal. We're very much unequal. And some people are much better than others at certain things. And yet, none of that matters. There is a powerful truth which proves itself that despite all of our material differences, we're equal. So the point is that the basis of democracy is that we're all equal, but the basis of equality is a creator. And if you take away the creator, that's the goose that laid the golden egg. So now, what's the problem with flaunting? Like they say, if you've got it, flaunt it, which people who are obviously very intelligent say that. So what's the problem with just exposing your body in public and trying to be as sexual as you can in public, and then attacking anyone that doesn't like it and saying that you're body shaming me? Well, the problem is that, as a very simple and obvious psychological principle, the more lusty a person is, the more they are sexually aroused, the more they identify not with the soul, which is the basis of equality and therefore democracy, but the more they identify with the body. In other words, the more sexually aroused someone is, the more they identify with the part of us that is not equal, because our bodies aren't equal, our souls are. And so if someone goes out into the street and tries to sexually arouse other people, let's say not because that's what they do for a living, it's a prostitute, so it's not just business, you're not just going to work to do business. Let's say someone exposes their body in certain ways out of sheer vanity, because someone likes other people to stare at them, or to be aroused by them, or to think, to use that modern barbaric language, this person is hot, which I suppose that means that that person arouses a type of physical heat of lust in a person. So out of sheer vanity, one person wants to sexually arouse other people just enough, not so much that they rape you or attack you, that would be too much, but just enough so that they admire you or they desire you, but they're not going to rape you. So it's just kind of like, that sweet spot where your vanity is satisfied. You get power over other people, because if someone is sexually attracted by you and is not able to rape you because they're restrained by legal consequences or their own inhibitions, then they're not going to rape you, and they're still sexually aroused. So you have power over them. So for power, for vanity, we do that. But the more as citizens we put each other in the what we call the bodily concept, the more we arouse each other so that everyone is identifying with their body and seeing other people as bodies, the less we see each other as souls and the less we actually see each other as equal. Again, it's the equal part of us, which is not the body, it's the soul, which is the foundation of our political system. And so these display, now, apart from the legal consequences, the fact that, I mean, so it's a simple question. Should an activity which clearly psychologically, sociologically, philosophically is destroying our political system or polluting it or weakening it, which means that we are more likely to get bad leaders, we're more likely, and when the leaders control nuclear weapons and this huge military establishment, it's very dangerous to have bad leaders. It's actually very dangerous. And so the more vain, lusty, crazy people are with selfish desires, the less they make intelligent choices and the less they see the true equality, the less they value virtue, because virtue is about giving up vanity. So when people become stupid with lust, and that's basically what happens, I mean, lust does make one stupid. When that happens, it has political consequences. It has social consequences. Now, apart from the legal aspect, like should there be laws saying that people have to dress decently, I'm not going to go there. I'm not recommending this or that law. I'm talking about just what's the right thing to do. So in terms of compassion, if someone is their body, if I am this body I have, male, Caucasian, a certain age, never ask a sannyasi their age, a certain age and American, if I am this body, then I am going to be annihilated by the forces of nature. My body's going to die. And if I am the body, then there's no question of reincarnation. Of course, one can always go for resurrection. But if there is no soul, if there's only a body, then usually even religious systems that argue for resurrection, which I don't think is the most philosophically interesting proposal, but still, then there's something like a soul. It's not just that God will resurrect this machine I have. For example, the argument is given in Bhagavad Gita that we all experience different phases of the body. Childhood, adolescence, old age, and then finally the body dies. And it's not that the baby body stretches into an adult body. It's actually every 7 years you're changing your body. You are what you eat. You're changing your body. So if we say I am the body, then the obvious question is which body? And if I am the body, how do you explain a continuous personal identity which could not be the body? If I say I was a baby, I was a child, I was an adolescent, I was a young adult, who's the I? Because the body's different. It's a different body. So who's the persisting, continuous I that experiences different bodies? So if we say we are the body, it just means someone's not thinking seriously about this. If you do think seriously, most people in history that really thought seriously about this understood that we're not the body. So again, if I see you as some type of being who has a chance at immortality, if I just say you're the body, then you're going to die soon, because in the greater scheme of things, whether you're going to live another 5 years or 50 years, it's almost an infinitely short time in the scheme of eternal time. And so if I see you as merely a body, then I'm, at least within my conception, condemning you to utter annihilation. Whereas if I see you as a soul, then I am seeing you in a way that presents the opportunity to live forever, to have a divine life. So it's much more generous, it's much more optimistic, it's much more promising to see people as souls. And yet a society like ours, obsessed with sort of cheap, bestial eroticism, you can't be sexually aroused and at the same time you can't be sublimely meditating on an eternal soul that is different from the body. Because the more one becomes lusty, obviously, the more consciousness is trapped in the body. So it's in every way our self-interest. If we care about ourselves, if we care about other people, if we just care about being rational and intelligent, then the soul is the way to go. And the way we dress, the way we behave, we should act in a way that enhances and doesn't kill our own chances at eternal life, at enlightenment, at true love, because you can't be grossly selfish and experience true love. And the lustier you are, the more selfish you are. That's what lust means. It means this ravenous desire to enjoy someone else's body or one's own body. It's the opposite of love. It is the perfection of selfishness. And so if we care about ourselves, if we care about other people, if we just care about sanity and rationality and virtue and reality, then the soul is the way to go. And that's why people who are doing everything within their power to make everyone else forget their soul and just focus on their body, the body of that person, is really exhibiting an extreme degree of blind selfishness. Just totally uninterested in the well-being of anyone else, including themselves. Well, anyone else and themselves. So if we want to have a civil society, a virtuous society, a just society where everyone is treated equally, a society in which people really care about themselves in a deep sense and care about other people in a deep sense, then we have to really think seriously about an eternal soul in every body. It does explain everything, and it does make everything work if by everything you mean a good and progressive society in which people are happy in this life and have unlimited opportunities in the next life. So that's the message for today. That is the HDG news. Thank you for watching. I hope you had a good time. Yeah, thank you all. Appreciate that you all took some of your valuable time to watch this. See you later.